All right. Welcome, Ryan Cameron. How you doing, man?
Doing good. And yourself?
Good to see you. Thanks for joining us on the first stream we're doing for EvolveLAB this year. Really appreciate it, man.
No problem. Anytime, man. Anytime.
Sweet. So for those that don't know, Ryan and I actually go back quite a bit, back to Omaha days. We were neighbors. You're at, which firm were you at? I was at HDR.
DLR. Now they're definitely neighbors.
That's right. Yeah, really close there. And then so we were both in the Omaha group. And there's the Central State Spin Workshop you and I were a part of with Carla and the whole team there. And I think that's where we met officially. It was kind of in that kind of environment, right?
Yeah.
Sweet. And then from there, like we came, I don't know, maybe I'm biased, but I consider us fast friends, started collaborating on some stuff, did a few joint sessions at AU, hung out quite a bit. And so what you're doing now, like to see where you were at then, to see where you're at now is incredible. So I want to give a quick intro for Ryan. For those that don't know, I'm sure many already do. But so Ryan has a master's in architecture from University of Nebraska. He's a licensed architect, which is huge, and digital practice leader at CMBA Architects. Also founder of Architect Machines, wrote quite a few articles, numerous best speaker awards, keynote speaking, design, technology, leadership, people, process, profits, strategies for hiring the next generation, AEC tech, designing culture, keynote for demonstrating the ROI to senior leadership, the inevitable change, from a superhero team, how to connect people and do great things, running a company, working at an architecture firm, has a family. The question is like, when do you sleep? That's what I want to know.
I get that question a lot, and to be perfectly honest, I actually get about 8 hours every night. And
do you really? Just super efficient with your time.
Yeah, just get up early, and you can go to bed whenever you want to if you wake up at 5, 6 a.m. and I feel great when I do that.
That's awesome. Can I ask, do you have like a morning routine as part of that that you'd like either reading or meditation, or like how do you kind of like start your day, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, no, depending on when I wake up, I don't use an alarm. It's just whenever my body feels like getting up, and grab the iPad or grab whatever book I'm reading. I go downstairs, cook the fire on if it's it's cold out, and sit on the couch and just read for an hour and a half or so, or type something up, or just get ahead of the curve of the day in that morning, because 8 o'clock comes, boom, I'm at work, I'm stamping drawings, I'm doing specs, I'm doing all kinds of implementation. It's you got to be efficient.
For sure. So you also just celebrated a birthday. I won't say how old you are, but happy birthday last week, right? Was your birthday? Okay.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a National Women's Day so shout out to all the women out there.
Shout out to all the women. I love it. That's great. Good timing on that. So Ryan, tell me, like, what's your current role? I know, like, you wear a lot of different hats. You do speaking. You're working at CMBA. You're doing Architect Machines. You're doing a lot of different stuff. But, like, tell me kind of where you're at today in your career and what you're doing at CMBA, and maybe like what your day to day looks like, if you don't mind me asking.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So, like I said, I get up. My wife will vouch for that. I usually get up, 5:30, 6 a.m. Read something, check some emails, just again get ahead of that curve a little bit. Get into work on my latest project, check in with the client, check in with the contractor, that kind of daily routine as an architect. And then every other day or however the schedule works, doing design technology implementation, leading the firm in terms of getting people in the right position. We're going to make some strategic promotions and things like that, and just bring everybody up to speed in like the most fun, friendly way that I can think of. So then I get home and I got 2 boys, a 7-year-old and 4-year-old, and then it's everything goes out the door there. But
yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, it's been great.
It's hard to try to balance it all, isn't it? Like work, family, trying to be a good dad, good husband, as well as like professional and all of that.
Yeah, it's tough, but yeah, no, my Ashley and I, you've taken Ashley and I out for sushi once or twice. We're going to celebrate our 10th anniversary this year. We're actually heading down to Tucson here next month, down to Phoenix, and meet up with some old friends. And she's got a bicycle group that she connects with on Zwift. So she's going to meet her virtual team that she races with in person. They're going to go do Mount Lemmon like she and I did 2 years ago. It's where Lance Armstrong used to train on.
Sweet. That's awesome. Yeah. I like Ashley, maybe a little more than you, but yeah, we'll do that. Sorry, but
She's awesome.
Yeah, she's great. All right. And while I have some questions for you, but when we dive into the questions, I want people, anybody that's watching live stream or chat or anything like that, feel free to chime in on the chat window where you guys are at, where you're located, and maybe like which firm you're at. So we get a little bit of context where you guys are at. That would be awesome. While people are doing that, one of the questions I had for you, Ryan, is a lot of the classes that you teach on and talk about, it seems like there's the thread or the common theme is like culture and people and that side, which I think is really interesting, right? Because there's like, I always talk about like the three-legged stool, people, process, technology. And process and technology is the easiest, right? Like you can build an app and tell it to do what you want it to do and all that. People are harder, and people have personalities. There's cultural differences, client meetings, team meetings. How do you balance like the culture side? And can you talk a little bit about why so many of your classes in the past or presentations, the things you talk on, are about people and culture and what that means like at a firm?
Sure. So, like you said, there's a plethora of technocratic mumbo jumbo out there, and it's just overwhelming to people. And so, yeah, you can start to try to implement VR and like fall flat on its face or something like that. But you've got to understand people and relationships. And so I've got a little quote here. It's relationships are like music. You should never make music with people who don't value, understand, or appreciate your lyrics. You gotta let those people go, right? You gotta let they're just dragging you down. You gotta stop chasing people who don't appreciate either the value you're bringing or just whatever you're doing. You gotta make your actions speak loud and proud to who you are. So don't let the people of the world convince you that you're nobody or what you're doing isn't important. If you believe it's important, go after it. You're somebody who's important. You just don't know it yet. And so hang in there, look for your angle and pursue it, right? So just, that's my advice to kind of start that conversation. Yeah, and you've got to have the right people in the right seat on the bus. I guess it's kind of a cliche that gets used a lot. So what we're doing at CMBA is we're promoting people within the firm to new positions because we understand that the climate has changed. The pace of change is insane. And yeah, everybody went to school to be an architect, but wow, there's some really cool specializations that you can gravitate towards and become that leader at that firm and that expert. So we're looking for experts, not only in K-12 design and healthcare design, but also internally some VR specialists and computational specialists, things like that. So that's something to look at.
Gotcha. And as it relates to like people and technology, like how can technology be better implemented at a company with the bent of like people, like, right? So like if you're starting to implement a technology, you talked about having the right people in the right seat on the bus. Is there like certain standards or processes that you use? Is there like a cadence to when you're rolling out a technology? Is there a vetting process? Like how do you go from the concept of like learning about a new tool to going, okay, we're investing in this tool and then we're rolling out this tool? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Most initiatives fail. So don't let that bug you. There's a couple ways I've seen technology get implemented at more than a dozen firms, big, small, medium, whatever. One way is the kind of the slow, methodical way that has a lot of oversight and governance. That's good. Another is small collaborative groups. They start doing things a little different, and then they share that success, which is kind of the key ingredient there. You've got to have a platform to be able to share that success and be able to kind of not overwhelm people, but to show them that there's a different, better way, and that some of the talent that the firm has can do that, and it can be duplicated. That success can be duplicated, and then that gets picked up by the rest of the firm. But like I said, most initiatives fail though. So the problem is you're tempted to start with the solution, right? So go back to the lean startups. You're tempted to start with the solution. I got it. It's me. It's all in my head. I've got it, right? We need BIM. We need VR. We need Dynamo. We need training. And we see a lot of BIM and design technology leaders saying, I have the solution to automation, or I found it. And that's just an approach, I guess, or this tool that can do that. And we're flooding staff with all these different tools and technology and not giving them time, not giving them the opportunity to innovate. So I was reading, as I often do, did you know that according to a report from Accenture.com, technology is being implemented faster than ever before? 86% of executives agree that their firm must trains people to think like technologists. So my question is, how much of that technology is going underutilized, right? So to answer the question, let's go back to computational design 2017. And I asked the audience, did you even bother to ask the people what they wanted to learn about? Or did you just go with what you wanted to go with? And that is the first question you should write down. Did you, or you should be able to answer, did you even bother to ask what your people wanted to learn about? If you can do that, you can become a culture of learning. That's kind of step one, maybe not perfectly step one, but if you can become a culture of learning, not of curiosity, not of technology, not of necessarily design, because design is sort of basically an offshoot of the process of learning. You learn how to design. So if you can do that, you're going to have much more success. That's a guarantee. Some people see it as their shot at implementing Dynamo or VR, and because it's a game changer. I consulted for a firm and listened to them talk about their VR rollout, and it had to be incentivized with gift cards just to jumpstart it. And there was this huge 6-figure investment, and even still that didn't move the needle. And then COVID hit and it basically became a paperweight, right? So it could have been avoided, right? So 2 questions, everybody write this down. This is gonna be a flood of information. So I hope everybody at home's got typing this down, but there's 2 questions, to do a staff interview. Get involved in like an empathy interview. Don't do a survey. Don't ask a will question or a would question. So get into a staff empathy interview to an entire division of staff or one-on-one on who you anticipate might use this new skill set or tool or whatever it is. And be honest. And the first question is, what do you think about XYZ tool? Right? And then ask that person, who do you think will use it? And that should be plenty more questions, but that should be enough to start off your empathy interview. Starting with those 2 should be enough to get the conversation going. That's going to help you kind of leave some breadcrumbs and start to get, the opinion from everybody. Oh yeah, I could totally see that person using it. Well, go, that's your next interview, right? The people will help bridge you to the next person. So once you discover the direction, most of the staff, the majority of staff, whatever that 51%, 60%, whatever that is, once you discover the direction, most of the staff are willing to go. Here's the next thing to write down. Assign an OKR to that. What is an OKR? So you got to go get Measure What Matters by John Doerr. You got to go get that. I'm not giving away any books, tablets, like I usually do. Sorry. It's getting challenging to get it to everybody, but go get that book. OKR is objective, key result, so that everybody in the organization can grasp what you're doing in less than 10 seconds. That was kind of my add to it. Everybody's got to be able to understand what you're doing in less than 10 seconds. If you can't explain what you're doing in less than 10 seconds, you don't know what you're doing. Totally. Right? So everyone in the firm has to know what you're trying to achieve. 10 seconds, go. Objective, increase usage of VR equipment by 15% on projects. Key result 1, 5% of time billed to project under a VR subcategory. 2, produce 1 example per office of exceptional usage of VR experience with the client. Okay, that took 11 seconds, but you get my point. You do those things, you're going to see an uptick because you've set a metric. Now you've set some sort of goal, whether you achieve it or not. I mean, you should achieve it, but make sure it makes sense. So that's just an example. I'm not saying take that and go implement it at your firm, but something like that, and it'll make a lot more sense after you read the book. But now the internal question, you have to, because you have to answer leadership at some point. What specific competitive goal does this fill for our firm? Are you just implementing it because it's shiny and cool? Why should we invest in this? That might be a question you're going to need to answer on the spot. In what way will the firm support this besides just the initial investment? Because some of these things have just initial startup costs, a new license for this or VR headset there. Are you going to have learning labs during work hours? I know that's what we're starting at CMBA. We have our first one next week. Go over Enscape. So shout out to Enscape. We're already starting to roll out our new BIMbox laptops. So shout out to Buck at BIMbox, right? But then of course, do you even have the physical space to innovate? So is this going to happen at everybody's desks, or do you have like some cool place to go, right? Because that can help, influence, your excitement, the excitement about learning something. Oh, I don't have to be at my desk. Oh, pick up my laptop now. Like that's a mind blow for some people. We can come back here to our cool ping pong table and our bar top back here and do something fun. So now the question. I hope everybody's writing this down or pausing and coming back to it. What value will this upskill process create? And that's the most interesting one because there's so many offshoots. When you're learning, you can get distracted and sometimes that's good. But what upskill process, what value will this create? So, I can't go ask a project manager if I can build 2 hours to the project to learn this new tool on the project. Can I?
Maybe.
So some firms create a separate job number. So this might be a mind blow for some firms out there. So there's actually a tax incentive offered to AEC firms for R&D. So a lot of firms don't realize that. So this is not legal advice. This is not tax advice. Just have your CPA, go look into it. But you can take 5, 10, 30 grand off the books just by having a formalized R&D program. So couple that with a business plan objectives of your OKR, which you just created just now. And, the only task left is to do what you say you do, say what you mean and do what you say. How's that go?
Yep.
So, okay. So let's recap this. That was a lot and there's still a lot more. So let's recap that. Number 1, ask staff what they want. Don't start with a solution in mind. Focus on learning. Not implementing, not building, focus on learning. Invest time to validate the problem by talking to staff. You could position them as clients, and perform empathy interviews. Next up, set an OKR. Go get the book, Measure What Matters by John Doerr. I don't get paid for that, by the way. Mm-hmm. Ask very few but quality questions, like the ones we mentioned a moment ago. If you haven't found your problem in less than 10 questions, do you really have a problem? Or do they really have a problem? Or do you? So, and remember, no would you or will you questions. You can't use those. So now you're beginning to understand your firm's innovation cycle, right? So couple all that last, whatever, it wasn't very long. That was like 12 minutes. That last 12 minutes, compress all that down. Now you can start to roll into the innovation cycle because you're going to have to rinse and repeat this, right? Mm-hmm. Like this isn't like once and done. Oh, geez, you've implemented 100 things and it all worked out. Small chunks, people, three or less at a time. Get into that innovation cycle.
That's good. Maybe too, I have another question for you as it relates to that. While I'm asking that question, that's a good book, Measure What Matters. Maybe for those that are listening in on the stream, if you could put in the comment a book you'd recommend, like it's like number 1 book, like you have to read this. Mine always is Disrupt You. Like I really always recommend that book from Jay Sammet. So that's really good. But if you guys could put in the comments there, a book you guys would recommend, it's definitely should read. That would be great for everyone listening. So that way we can all learn together. One of the things I liked you said a lot was the percentages of VR, right? You're not like, hey, we're implementing VR. You said, 15% of all projects now will use VR. And so I was curious, have you ever heard of like SMART goals? I think it's measurable, attainable, realistic. I forget what the S is. That one piece I like is the M in SMART is measurable. And so that's really cool that you have that tangible, like, and it's like, did we succeed in this or not? It's not like, well, did we implement VR on projects? Well, yeah, we did, but what's the percentage and the success rate of that? I really like that you have the percentages in there, and also the idea of the learning labs. We actually have that at EvolveLAB as well. Every Wednesday or every other Wednesday, we have an internal learning lab, and we go through like code bases and JSON and Revit tips and Dynamo and all of that. And so creating that culture of learning, I thought was really good that you mentioned as well. One of the questions I had for you, though, is you said most initiatives fail, and sorry, I didn't prime you for this before, but do you have an example that you could share with the group just to say, hey, I'm human, and we had a challenge, and I tried to implement, or something happened, it didn't go as planned, and here was a lesson learned? Like for me, I did this when I was working at an architecture firm, and we had this programming tool, and I took it from my other firm where we had bought it to this new firm. And I thought it was great, but the user interface felt like 1996, and just I couldn't get the adoption like at the new firm. And when I spent thousands of dollars in implementing it, it ultimately became a big waste, for the firm. And it was kind of egg on my face for that. And it was like, man, I should have vetted it better. I should have been maybe like what you were saying, ask questions, do some use cases on it with the team internally, understand some of those problems. Do you mind sharing maybe like an example, a realistic example of maybe how that didn't go well, and then how maybe an example did go well using some of the principles you outlined?
Absolutely. So one was a really short, quick one. It just didn't work because there was some internal things that were not working. So which fortunately have successfully, implemented it here. But one is, let's say you want to know how often people are using VR. Well, basically every time you pull a license in Enscape and they click the VR button, you can basically build a script that tracks that. But I needed access to certain server protocols, if you will, and I needed somebody to do that. And there was kind of some internal conflict, not geared towards me, but just internal conflict going on their side. They couldn't get it done. So we never actually got that off the ground. Another one. Dynamo implementation is insanely difficult, especially back, what was it, 2014, 2015, 2013 when it first started rolling out, but it didn't really hit mainstream for a few years. And there's a lot of intricate parts that you have to watch out for, and it needs to be a full-time person, not somebody doing that part-time. So we did put together some goals. There's a bunch of scripts all over the servers. Sorry, I didn't do a better job of that, but there's a lot of interesting things that have already been done. So yeah, we didn't meet some of those internal goals, if you will. But fortunately, those were some of the pressures that I put on myself. They were never really adopted by the firm. So yeah, that's on me.
Yeah, good comment. And I think it's good because it shows like we're all human, we're all learning, like the idea of recommending books and challenges we go through. So that's really good. You had some of those key points that you mentioned. What can we do to improve our own process or product? Is there other like takeaways? Is that list all kind of the ideas, or do you have some other ways that we can like improve product releases or implement a technology at a firm? Is the metrics one piece of it, like percentages, to implement, staff culture, like having dedicated users for like pilot projects or other recommendations on that side?
Yes, and yes. So I'm gonna step back on that question and kind of answer it at maybe a higher level, and that's basically to say, right now, everybody at home, everybody's going to be listening to this recording, get down a piece of paper or type this. I'd like everybody at home to make a list of assumptions on what they feel is working well at the firm they're at. For example, or handoff from design development to construction documents. It's great. Our rollout of Dynamo went flawlessly. Our VR equipment is being used weekly. They are all assumptions. You don't have to prove it. Just write them down in your list of assumptions. Can you also make a list of assumptions of what you feel are not working well at your firm? So keep this list down to like 3 or less. I'm sure that could be a list of 100 things for some people. Yeah, don't share this with anybody just yet. Get them down to 3 or less of things that you are passionate about that you want to tackle. Less is more. Don't solve them all yet. That's coming. Next up, I want people at home to make a list of people who support you at the firm. Literally, if someone has ever stood up for you, got you out of trouble, I know I have plenty of those people, helped you fight the good fight, or just generally would have your back because you both feel strongly about a cause or a process you want to improve, write those people down. And that can be as long as a list as you want. So next up, name 3 or 4 barriers that you think are preventing you from achieving that goal. And try not to name names. Fight problems, not people. So again, that's a philosophy that you need to adopt. Fight the problem, not the people. It's not somebody's fault. There's a problem that you're trying to solve. Don't fight the people, fight the problem. And finally, I want you to identify a leader or a high-level executive at your firm that you feel can help carry the message at your firm, whether you're from 20 or 2,000 or 10,000. Get at least one high-level leader that's going to support you and mentor you on this. So great. Wait, Ryan, you just wasted my time. What did I write all this down for? So let's recap that too. And I'm going to blow your mind here, hopefully. Now that you have a list of things that are going well, not well, who can help, and things that have gone horribly wrong, additionally, you've identified not only a team, but an executive sponsor to help. You've literally just created your first SWOT, your SWOT plus. I just made that up just now, the plus part. SWOT plus. So that's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And that's how you improve process. That's one way. Go sit down. Go sit down for coffee with your executive leader that you've identified and go attack those issues. Don't just go after the low-hanging fruit either. Go after the ripe fruit. Ripe, R-I-P-E. Sometimes that low-hanging fruit is crap. Right? Oh, we got the low-hanging fruit. Well, it was not very valuable, right? So go after the ripe fruit on the vine. Have that conversation. You've got everything in front of you right now. If you've hit pause, you've got that. Now you know what processes are working that you don't necessarily have to babysit, what processes aren't, who's going to help, the executive leader, and then you come up with the solution, right? You got to work at it.
I like it. I was just reading a book. I was rereading the book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And one of them in there was about like influence and the people that you can influence and the problems you can influence. Can you talk about like, maybe there's the SWOT analysis was really good. Maybe there's some things like at a firm, like you just can't influence or change. Like you can't change that one studio's principal and he's a jerk or whatever, or there's the HR person. Can you talk a little bit about SWOT analysis as well as circle of influence and like things that are out of your control versus like in your control? Are those like tangible, like what amount of like taxable emotional energy should we be like putting on a task when we're trying to identify the problem and the solutions to those problems versus ones we can't?
Yes. So it's one of those things that how I started this is, relationships are like music. You got to stop chasing people that don't, you got to leave those people behind. It's a good thing you wrote down about three examples. And if there's one of those that you just can't change, you got 2 more to go look at. So sphere of influence is important. Again, that's that executive leader portion, which I'm glad you picked up on. You've got to have somebody that's going to those meetings and representing you and really representing the idea more than they are you. And I think that's sometimes a problem that leadership has, that who the idea come from. Oh, that person's not blah, 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 blah. Well, that's why you got to defend the idea. And by doing so, you're defending the person. So you're attacking problems, not people, right?
I love it.
So
that's really good. Yeah. Attack the problem, not the people. I love it. And as it relates to like the broader ecosystem, is there areas that are within the constraints of the firm versus like outside the firm? Like obviously like you have influence in trying to execute a new technology at the firm you're at, but you also speak at AU and AIA and like other conferences. Can you talk about maybe the overlap or not overlap of influence at CMBA versus like at a conference or the industry as a whole? And maybe for all of us, like how we could do a better job of that.
Yes. So ecosystem, it's a noun. It's biological community, interacting organisms in their physical environment. So let's break that down. Not even technology ecosystem. We're just talking like really, we're going to be looking at trees and foliage in the forest, absolutely everything, the bugs in the soil to the tree roots that get nourished, the insects that are pollinating the flowers to the animals that live there, right? Everything's connected. You can't just look at it like, oh, these tree leaves or the tree bark or something like that. So now imagine the equivalent of that at your firm, because your firm has an ecosystem, right? And so so this is where it gets a little bit challenging, because you have to like figure out what that is essentially. And if accounting decided not to show up for a month, I can't say what that's going to look like for everyone's firm, but you got a problem, right? So it's just like saying like the bugs in the soil just like disappeared one day. There's going to be a pretty dramatic collapse that happens. So that's that ecosystem, that cause and effect, right? And so when you're introducing new tools into your ecosystem, it's like introducing like a predator that wasn't there before, right? In a way, bear with me, folks. So all makes sense. So you're introducing something new into the ecosystem. You've got to be able to understand how that's going to react in there before you ever introduce it. Is it going to be a good thing? Is it going to be a bad thing? Because everything takes resources, right? Just like in an ecosystem. So if you ever want to be that leader at your firm, you have to understand that better than the current leadership does. Right? So that's boom, boom, right? You have to be able to prove that you can make a difference in the ecosystem that has a net positive effect. When introduce a jaguar into a plains region, because the jaguar wouldn't benefit because there's no trees and things like that, and all the rabbits would die. So that's kind of the way to look at it. So don't introduce something. Going back to what you said just a moment ago on the previous question, kind of like how do I want to put this? When you do introduce something, make sure it's the right, fit for your firm or whatever. And I'm reminded of a time, this would have been Advancing Computational Building Design 17 or something. Somebody asked the question, well, we're hiring all these young kids and all they talk about is 3D printers, but I want them to do computation. I want them to do this Dynamo stuff. I looked back at him and I said, looks like you got, a lot of 3D printers. You should probably specialize in that. Right? Like don't go against the flow. Don't go against the grain. Like you're going to spend all this time and probably go to waste because you're trying to gear some people that are graduating that don't have that passion for computation, but you're starving them for 3D printing. Man, jump into that. And I think that light bulb kicked onto his head. So again, going back to your previous question is if the opportunity isn't there, find plenty of other opportunities, right? You just got to understand that ecosystem to have that positive effect.
I have a question about that. So a lot of times, for our firm, EvolveLAB, I'm a big proponent of just getting out of the way. Sometimes I can get in the way of the team and I'm like, man, I just need to give this person freedom to do what they're good at. If it's 3D printing, go crush it. For an architecture firm, if they have 3D printing and there's computational design, how do you balance business cases for that, right? What if that design principle is well, we're doing 3D printing, but we're spending all this money on materials and hardware and all of that, but it really doesn't make money, but computational design would, because now we're designing buildings with data behind it for natural daylighting and optimization and all of that. It's a better business case or better use case. How do there's there's a pendulum, right? And doesn't mean one's wrong and the other one's right, but how do you marry those two? Where's the harmonization of getting out of staff's way of where they're really good at 3D printing, but making a business case for that and creating that camaraderie for the team so that way you're all kind of going and marching in the same direction?
Yeah, get out of their way. Be a resource. Don't be a roadblock, right? Be a resource. Don't be a roadblock. So we're implementing GIS data into our K-12 dashboard stuff. There's a guy sitting right next to me, young guy, just graduated Iowa State about a year and a half. And he's just great at Excel and great at spreadsheets and great at data. And I introduced him to Power BI. Boom. When that was it. That's all I had to do. I was like, here, check this cool stuff out that I did, 5 years ago that everybody's stealing. And go use that. And improve it. I shouldn't say stealing, but seeing it and then oh, wow, he was doing that 3D thing, but it wasn't real. Now I got to make this cool 3D thing that has this connection, right? So I just pointed a couple things, and whenever Andrew has a question, I just am like, yeah, awesome. Let's look up, this video. Let's go talk to this reference, and he's built this great dashboard, and I give him credit every single moment that I can. So that's again, I'm happy for him, right? That's hard for a lot of leaders to do. That's my job. I did all this. It's no, dude, you got to get out of the way, and you've got to, help lift everybody. And be that person, right?
Definitely, 100%. Yeah, I can relate to that. I started doing like this consulting thing out of my basement in my house, and like now have people on our team. We're up to 9 now, including myself, and I'm by far like the dumbest guy on the team now. Like we have a full stack developer, computer scientists. Like they're so much smarter, and so like part of that is like me. I just need to get out of the way of them because obviously like they're capable, very very good at what they do. Making a business case for it, you have to do too, though. Like, so that way you make payroll and can pay the team and all of that. You mentioned Power BI and as well as Enscape and Bimbox. There's a lot of like software, hardware out there. And I know like there's so much, buzz around and marketing and stuff around generative design, and some of it's real and some of it's hyped. And can you talk a bit about like what's new in the world, and try to like too, if you can be like super candid, like cut through the noise, like, okay, Enscape, super solid, real-time 3D rendering, really like that. This I feel like is over leveraged and overhyped. Or can you talk a little bit about what's new in the industry in AEC that you're seeing trends? I mean, AI, ML, all is buzzy right now, but
everything.
But is there anything like tangible, products that people can purchase that's available to them that we can actually start using on actual projects, et cetera?
I just want everybody to know at home, we didn't rehearse this, but I am that prepared that I actually have examples in my possession because I anticipated something like that. What you don't see behind me is like this array of like, monitors and screens and gadgets and stuff, just in case. So, but no, you bring up a good point. I mean, every firm's like this. At CMBA, we're hit with technology vendors every single day, week, month. And if, again, we go back to the ecosystem, if it gets introduced like an invasive species that unbalances everything, that's bad. So don't get me wrong, we're looking to evolve, right? No pun intended, EvolveLAB, but we're looking to evolve, outcompete, thrive in an environment, but our disruptions have to be done in a way that the whole place doesn't burn to the ground, right? So we're actively promoting digital competence as a skill future leaders need at our firm. So I'm sure everybody's going to steal that now. We're promoting people with digital competence to become leaders at the firm, right? That's just a natural progression of the way things are going. And so if we go back to that Accenture.com Tech Trends 2021 study I mentioned at the beginning, technology has become very critical to the overall success of the organization. So what we've implemented is a design technology roadmap with Architect Machines, which is of course me and a small team that identifies critical paths moving forward. And I highly recommend going through one of our visioning sessions. I think you'll find it highly valuable. And then of course, once I get you everything you need, I can hand you off to an EvolveLAB and they can build and create all this awesome stuff for you. So for our firm, we've identified the need to communicate better between offices. So what me and the team are doing right now is implementing KA Connect. So we've identified reality capture opportunities. So we'll be getting a test model of our BLK 360 next month, and we've identified better rendering capabilities with Enscape, and of course laptops from Bimbox that are specifically geared to operate that software. And then a side benefit is Enscape is just better. Again, in my opinion, Enscape is better at file management and it's easier to use from a VR standpoint. And then lastly, we're collating the firm's GIS data and building data to create a new service. So lastly, that roadmap that we've created with Arc Machines, list of available softwares and order a predicted success rate, and then we'll feed those into our ecosystem gradually. So if you email us, I will kindly say, you aren't on the list, but I can put you down for 2022, 23 as we begin to evaluate. I'm not just going to inject you into the system tomorrow, right? There's a whole list of people in front of you, and we're all trying to get in. It's just impossible to shove 10 new softwares into a firm. That's crazy. You will definitely fail. So what's cool in tech right now? So first comes to mind, big cigar poof smoke to Brian Nickel and Allied BIM. That's an inside joke. But if you've seen what they're doing, I think it's just amazing. They're working with TigerStop. Brian is creating basically a web-based platform that integrates with like BIM 360, Revit, and it's created basically a software for fabrication tools. It's a fab center. So it's available on the Autodesk App Store now. Check it out. Allied BIM. Look for some demonstration videos soon He's invited me, I think once or twice, to kind of behind the scenes demo of the release a few months ago. It's out now. Check it out, everybody. So that's something everybody can take a look at. It's tangible right now. And
he's a super nice guy, by the way. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, no, you're good. Yeah.
I've called him so many times about BLK questions and harassed him about things. He's so generous with his time and help. So yeah, he's crushing, doing some great things. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but
no, that's good. That's good, man. Yeah, no, anytime I can hang out with Nickel, it's worth my time. So
yep.
And then the other one, because I know we're coming up on time here, is PlanetWatchio.io. So I think a lot of people maybe know me as one of the co-founders of Datastreams. It was an internal innovation project, part of their PDG Professional Development Grant Program, that eventually led to, I think they've redone it a couple times and kicked me to the curb and all that fun stuff, and it's led to their Sonrai platform, which is all about collecting data through a sensor network to track VOCs, CO2 level, temperature, humidity, all that stuff. So I was very interesting. I was chatting online with Claudio, the CEO of PlanetWatch, about basically their product in partnership with AboTube, and so that's what's right in front of me here. So it's a little bit expensive. It's just a tick over $200, but basically it's a portable network sensor, battery operated, just fantastic little thing. So as I'm breathing on it, it's actually telling me, hey, you've got this CO2 level, you're at this humidity. Let me pull up the app. This is super awesome.
This is great. So firms would put this in their office or in a client's office, and
you can clip it to your belt loop. Yeah.
Gotcha. All right.
So that's my atmosphere right now, VOC level, and so everything pretty good. 87 is not bad. Blue is good. Green's okay. Yellow is you better check what you breathe in. Red's like you're in the middle of a fire in Oregon. So the cool thing about this is I'm going to check on me. It's going to transfer all that data. Now I've just done a web upload. Oh, it's hard to see, but it just gave me some Planet tokens. So what the heck are Planet tokens, Ryan? So this is like everything Datastreams 1.0 was meant to be, like this awesome portable web-based, app-based interface. But the Planet tokens are a reward for sending data to the network, right? Because this is all meant to be open source. And the coolest part is this is all built on blockchain. And that's what I'm terribly interested in, and terrified at the same time. So it's the best blockchain I've ever seen. There's a million of Bitcoin and Ethereum and all that fun stuff. But it's created by these geniuses at MIT. MIT, yeah, what do they know? But obviously it's working for them. The other nice thing is the portability that this brings. Comes with a clip. You can open up the app and hit update and gives you an accurate ASTM standard, blah, 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 lab calibrated, reading about the air in your immediate vicinity. So MIT is making something cool.
It sounds like it's kind of like the Waze app. Like it gathers user data and aggregates all of that for the betterment of the overall app experience. Is that the reason you're sharing the data and you receive tokens for it? Is their reward for you contributing to the product? Yep.
And I believe you can use the tokens. They have some sort of value to them. You can use it to buy more products from them. So, or get some sort of discount to trade them back in or something. That way their ecosystem keeps going. So it is actually valuable. And so I'm super excited about that, and being able to see basically a map of the different, VOCs in that area or some forest fires going on. It's going to be a little harder to breathe over there. And I kind of want to know that.
Can I ask, are firms starting to adopt this? I remember Daniel Davis when he was at WeWork, he was pushing sensors really hard. It was really impressive what they were doing with them. What's the percentage of adoption of sensors in buildings to date? Are they starting to get more mainstream, or is it 2% of every project gets them to validate, the data of what was designed? And as a follow-up question, why would firms do that? Isn't it just an added cost to them, or is there an opportunity for firms to use that as additional services, to validate designs? Could it actually reflect negatively on the design because they designed it a certain way, but now it doesn't validate it? Like, does it de-incentivize people to do it? Do you mind chatting about that?
Yeah. So your first question is implementation and how many firms are doing it. I think we're still in the early days of this. I know NBBJ had a cool little Arduino Raspberry Pi app thing going, and that's sort of how we started building it. I think the firm that kicked it off first, and we were doing it at the exact same time, we just didn't realize it, was Kieran Timberlake, because they were doing it in 13, and we had completed our first round in 14. So I had never heard of them before, and now that they're all over the news, they're awesome, they're an amazing firm. But I mean, 7 years, you know how long things take to get implemented in AEC. Like, as far as I'm concerned, it's still a emerging market for a lot of firms. So to answer your second set of questions, which is could be an ad service or something like that, well, absolutely. I mean, that's why we're hiring data scientists and stuff, right? That's why you hire smart people, and you fill their passion, right? You fill their buckets up with the passionate things that they want to do with their lives. So yes, absolutely. I'm already pitching stuff like this to my engineering clients and consultants around the Iowa, Nebraska, whatever state I'm licensed in. At the time, it's 2 or 3. I better check my renewals and get them to start implementing this and implement it here at CMBA as well. We just got to figure out what that is. And that, again, that's what I'm talking with Claudio, the CEO of PlanetWatch, and say, hey, I think, one email per one device, you got to go big, man. You got to go way bigger than that. You've got to have to be able to roll out a whole, dish of these things to a building so that, we can validate our designs, right? If we can validate our designs, we can actually, proof is in the performance, right? And we can, in theory, up our fees because we are providing, we can tactfully, we've set an OKR, right? We've tacked into, a new market and a new service, and we can charge for that. We just got to figure that out.
I love it. All right, I think we need to round this out here. This is really good info. It's information overload. You're so smart, dude.
Thank you.
All right, so big takeaways I got was attack problems, not people. To initiate learning labs at your firm, do a SWOT analysis. And measure what matters as part of that process. Check out some of the new technologies, which is the Allied BIM, PlanetWatch. If people wanted to know more about you, Ryan, and follow what you're doing, how do people connect? How can they find out and learn more about all these technologies that you're using and implementing? And where can they get a hold of you at?
Gosh, everywhere. So we've got a new YouTube channel for Architect Machines. So if you found me on YouTube at RB Cameron 1, I've just uploaded a new video that says, hey, go check out our new video. We got twice as many subscribers, comments. I'm on YouTube every day learning something, so I can respond back to you quick. You can get my email. I got 1,000 followers on Twitter. You can find me on that. LinkedIn, same thing. There's a million ways to reach out to me. And I'm happy to sit down with anybody at any time and just listen to you and provide whatever advice I can if that's what you're looking for.
I love it, man. Thank you. So what I'll do is I'll put the hyperlinks in the comments below. So if anybody wants to check those out, check out Architect Machines. We'll also post the other comments for books you recommended and processes. And maybe we'll do a little blog post. I think it'd be nice maybe to highlight some of these actionable items. I took notes here, but I think it'd be good to reference these for later, man. Dude, okay. Happy belated birthday. So happy to have you on. Really appreciate you coming in and
sharing Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. Sharing the wealth of knowledge. For those that want to check that out, make sure you check out Ryan's YouTube channel, LinkedIn. We'll publish all that, and appreciate you guys watching today. Have a great day and a good week. We'll see you.
Awesome.